According to ghost stories in Japan, there are spirits everywhere, even in the strangest of places. Believe it or not, school bathrooms are especially well known to be haunted. In Japan, there are these telltale signs that a disturbed ghost named Hanako-san has taken up residence in the school. All you have to do is stand very close to the door of the third stall, knock 3 times, and ask, "Are you there, Hanuko-san?" Afterwards, there's always a stretch of silence which seems to last forever. If Hanuko-san is really there, she will answer in a slow whisper, "Yes, I am here." According to the legend of Hanuko-san, what happens next will vary depending on what school you're in. Sometimes a hand will bust through the door and drag the person into the stall and kill them. Usually though, after the pause, the stall door will open just a slight bit. Then if the person is brave enough, they will be able to push the door open, revealing Hanuko-san herself. Hanuko-san is described as having very pale, white skin and as always wearing a red skirt. Her hair is short and black, done in an old-fashioned style. Hanuko-san has become a fixture of Japanese urban folklore over the past 70 years. The most popular origin story for the tale holds that during World War II, a schoolgirl was using the bathroom when a bomb fell on top of the building. The school collapsed on top of Hanuko-san, who has been trapped there ever since. Some says she was a victim of ongoing bullying, called ijime in Japan, by her classmates. One day the bullying got particularly bad and she ran into the third stall of the bathroom to try and get away. The other kids came and banged on the door to try to force her to come out, but she had locked the door and they eventually left. Later that evening, some school staff members found Hanuko-san dead in that small stall. She just couldn't take it anymore and had committed suicide right there. There are many stories circulating. Though we may not know what the true history of Hanuko-san is, she certainly makes for an interesting ghost story. The Brothers Grimm collected stories of folktales throughout Germany during the 19th century. Amongst them are plenty of famous and often dark fairy tales. One example is the famous story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. During the 13th century, the city of Hamelin suffered from a great rat plague. The people of Hamelin were out of their wits. One day, though, a stranger in colorful clothes appeared and promised them to rid them of the rats for an appropriate payment. The citizens agreed and promised him a generous reward if he succeeded. The stranger was a skillful piper and played a melody on his tune that made the rats and mice of the city to gather around him. Enchanted by his music, they followed him when he stepped into a nearby river, where they drowned. The piper had fulfilled his promise, but the people of Hamelin denied him his reward. The stranger left angrily and without payment. Some time later, he returned and played his flute once more. This time it were the children of Hamelin that fell under his tune spell. He led them out of the town and into a cave under a mountain. Only 2 of the children returned, one blind, one mute, unable to tell where they had been. None of the other children were ever seen again. In Romania, I grew up on a farm and my grandma and her sister were super religious, but they also believed in folktales. This one folktale said that each year on a specific night in summer, I forgot the day of Senzian, these mystical forest nymphs would come out and play their instruments together around town. You were never supposed to go outside if you heard music playing because it was their way of drawing people out. My grandma's sister told me this story about a person from their village who was working late on that day and didn't want to go home. As he was working, he heard folk music and the sounds were getting closer and closer, so he was scared and hid in a haystack. He then overheard the sound of a string breaking and a female voice saying, "Oh no, my guitar string broke." Then another voice said, "Oh, don't worry. Maybe that man over there can help." And they apparently took one of his muscles from his leg and used it as a replacement for the string. And since then, that man never walked on that foot ever again. This story used to scare me so much when I was little, and I never knew if they made it up entirely or if it was a tale passed on through generations. But it was super creepy.